What exactly makes a city the worst? It's a loaded question, right? Well, a viral video recently tried to answer it, and it came up with a list that was built on some very specific data and, let's just say, a no holds barred perspective. So, today we're going to deconstruct that list, not to agree or disagree, but to really understand the formula it uses to define what makes a city a tough place to live. It really is a provocative question, isn't it? I mean, what makes a city unlivable? Is it all about crime stats? Is it the cost of living? Or is there something else, something a little harder to measure? This is the central question the source material we're looking at today claims to have an answer for. So, just to be super clear, our focus today is squarely on the perspective and the data from this one specific video. We're not here to pass our own judgment, we're here to break down exactly how this one creator got to his conclusions. Okay, so everything we're about to talk about, it all comes down to this foundation right here. The creator frames his entire list using just three core metrics: a low livability score, a violent crime rate that's way above the national average, and a high cost of living. Keep these three things in your head because they are the engine that drives every single ranking we're about to see. All right, let's put this formula to the test. We're going to start the countdown at number 10, and as we go, we'll look at the specific story the source tells about each one of these cities. So the video kicks things off with Barstow, California, a town you might know if you've ever driven between LA and Vegas. The source basically paints a picture of a place where, yeah, it's affordable, but that affordability comes with a pretty high crime rate, 183% above the national average, according to the video, and not a whole lot to do. Next up, the creator puts together two cities with really deep historical roots, but he argues very difficult presence. For Gallup, New Mexico, he points to a crime rate that's 274% above average and a level of poverty that's a sharp contrast to its beautiful scenery. And for Selma, Alabama, well, it's a strikingly similar story. This quote really gets to the heart of the video's argument for Selma. It completely acknowledges the city's iconic, crucial role in the civil rights movement, but then claims its present is defined by a struggling economy, low incomes, and infrastructure that's just in desperate need of investment. As they move up the list, a really powerful theme starts to emerge: the ghost of industry. The creator highlights Camden and Benton Harbor as two prime examples of cities really struggling with the aftermath of industrial collapse, pointing to decades of people leaving and public services being strained to the breaking point. And wow, just look at this number. This is one of the most extreme data points in the entire video. The source claims Benton Harbor's violent crime rate is over 500% above the national average. It's framed as a place where deep poverty exists, literally right next door to a much more prosperous town. And for Camden, the story is very much the same. The video points out that the city's population hasn't actually grown since the 1950 census. It argues that even with some redevelopment on its waterfront, the wider community is still dealing with a huge burden of scarce jobs and high crime. And rounding out this part of the list are two cities the source basically holds up as poster children for Rust Belt challenges. For Gary, Indiana, the video highlights a population that's dropped by more than half from its peak. Both Gary and East St. Louis are described as places where, when the industry packed up and left, a huge part of the population just followed, leaving behind a legacy of abandoned buildings and infrastructure. Okay, so now we are entering the top three. According to the source material, this is where that combination of low livability, sky-high crime, and really deep economic struggles becomes the most severe. At number 3, we've got a city famous for its boardwalk and casinos, but the creator argues that just behind those bright lights of Atlantic City, there's an economy that's a really tough bet year-round, with neighborhoods that struggle hard once the tourists go home. And the data presented for Atlantic City is pretty stark. You have a below-average livability score of 55 and a violent crime rate that's almost 400% higher than the national average. So the key point here is that while it's cheaper to live there than in the rest of New Jersey, the video argues that this count comes at a really significant price in terms of safety and stability. It's a punchy line for sure,
And it totally captures the essence of the source's argument that the city's economic model, which was once its greatest strength, has now become its greatest liability. The runner-up spot, number 2, goes to Yazoo City, Mississippi. The video highlights what it calls crime numbers that can literally drain the color from your face, along with really thin public services and so few local jobs that a lot of residents are forced into super long commutes just to find work. And that brings us to the number 1 spot. According to this creator's formula, the city that tops the list of the worst is Monroe, Louisiana. The source paints a really bleak picture, arguing that the city is fighting a trifecta of problems: a weak job market, aging infrastructure, and deep, widespread poverty. But the number that truly cements this ranking is the crime rate. According to the source, Monroe's violent crime is a staggering 457% above the national average. In the video's entire analysis, this single statistic is the heaviest weight on the scale. And when you see the top cities laid out side by side like this, the creator's logic becomes crystal clear. While all the cities on the list are facing major challenges, the source argues that it's the sheer scale of violent crime in these top 3 that really sets them apart, with Monroe leading the pack.
So, after going through all 10 cities, what's the big picture here? Well, the source video points to several powerful themes that seem to connect these otherwise very different places across the country. Basically, the creator argues that these cities share a very familiar story. It all starts with big economic shifts that leave these deep, lasting scars. Then, people start to leave to find opportunities somewhere else. This puts this immense pressure on a city's ability to provide even basic services, which then fuels this vicious cycle of poverty and crime. And this final thought from the source on its number 1 city, it really does summarize the entire thesis of the video. The argument is that for some places, the path to recovery just isn't guaranteed, and the challenges they're up against are structural and have been decades in the making. So after breaking down this one creator's formula for the worst, it leaves us all with a much, much bigger question. If these are the problems, what are the solutions? The video doesn't really offer answers, but it forces us to think about the incredibly complex reality of urban decline and the monumental effort it takes for a city to be renewed. So I'll leave you with this. What do you think it takes?